Good morning, everybody. I am Magiabella for the Biophilic Alternative, and I am getting my video up late this week, but I'm getting it up. And what I wanted to talk about today was an experience that I had not this Saturday, but the Saturday before last. And so this falls under paranormal activity. Although it really, I think, falls more under magical creatures and stuff like that. So I think some would call it paranormal, and I would just call it my encounter with my brownie, basically. I had worked late on Saturday night, and I was coming back, and I didn't get in until after 10 o'clock, and when I work with the public, and so a lot of times it's hard to just start shutting down after you come home. So I had taken my bath, got ready for bed, and it was around midnight, and I was crawling into bed. I was wide awake, my lights were still on, and I had turned on my TV. But it was just to the part where it was, it's a smart TV, so it just came on that interface to where I hadn't decided whether I was going to watch a movie on Netflix or if I was going to turn on YouTube videos to let a playlist run. And I hadn't turned that part on yet because I was going to be going through a couple of books, and I was deciding which two books I was going to look at. So I had the books on my bed, and I was getting kind of comfortable, and I was probably in bed for maybe 2 minutes or so. The house was completely quiet and still, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear, it was under my bed, was the scratching of like little claws, like a cat or a dog when they're trying to take off to run, but they're on regular hardwood floors or tile floors, and they can't get kind of traction at first before they take off. It was a lot like that, and it took off from underneath my bed. I can remember that I just looked over, and I could literally see the path that it was taking, because there was a piece of paper on the floor that whooshed away. I had taken off a skirt, and it was on the floor, and it had moved the fabric on the skirt. I watched it run out of my bedroom and around the corner in my washroom, but right beside my door is a table with a tablecloth, and it moved that tablecloth because I saw it flutter, and a tarp that I had stuck up underneath the table fell onto the ground. Now I could clear as day hear it. I could clearly see the path that it was taking, but there was absolutely nothing there. I saw nothing. I knew that whatever this was, that it had some size and weight to it. Not like huge amounts, but the size of a cat or a small dog. And I remember, surprisingly, that I had no fear. All I did was just kind of look, and I was amused because I thought, whatever this is, it's terrified that it's in this room with me. And my first thought that popped through my head at that moment was a brownie from like the Spiderwick Chronicles on that movie. So I thought to myself, after I had a chance to think about it, I thought, well, you know, I thought it was maybe an entity or something that I had let loose in the house somehow or another. But I'm not real sloppy with my magic, and I don't create entities, and I don't really call in the elementals, and I don't usually do the kind of magic that would leave that kind of little thing running around rampant. I thought, well, maybe somebody sent me something that, you know, whether it was ill-intended or good intentions, whatever. I thought of that. I thought of a lot of different stuff. But it came back down to my bedroom is full of protection, first of all. And I thought, how funny that it was under my bed and it managed to get into the bedroom with the protection. And then I realized that I think that my protection is activated when I crawl into bed. I have stuff on very much completely encircling my bed. So my protection is pretty stout in my bedroom because I figure that while you're sleeping is when you're the most vulnerable. So that's where a large amount of my protection is. And I think that as I crawled into bed, that it was starting to activate and it needed to get out from underneath my bed. As I relayed this story to a couple of people, the first person that gave me an idea or an inkling of what might have occurred was one of my fellow employees that I work with, and he said that it was a Duendes. And I said I hadn't heard of what a Duendes was. So he goes, well, it's a little creature that is notorious. It's invisible, but it goes about doing things in your home. I was like, okay. So I went back to the idea of a brownie because I know that your first instincts when something is happening, the first thing that flashes through your brain is generally what it is. It's actually not you, but you're picking up something from the other side, and it's only after you try to analyze what happened that you start coming up with all these different solutions. So I went back to the idea of a brownie. Now I did run this by Jan, also from Jan Steele from the Biophilic Alternative. And I talked to Spin as well, and a few other people. And I am now pretty comfortable with the fact that I have a brownie in my house. So when I started researching what a Duendes was, it basically is the same thing as a brownie. The only difference is that in the Celtic tradition, the Scottish tradition, European tradition, it would be considered a fairy, a house spirit, and it's around 2.5 feet tall. Well, that fit, the size fit, and it seemed to be that. But a Duendes is the same thing, except that how they describe it as an elf instead of brownie-like or fairy-like. But what the creature does and how it responds, you would think that it came from the exact same culture as they were talking about it. So whether you call it a Duendes, which would be a term probably more common for South Texas, or a brownie, which would be more common for the Celtic or Scottish paths, I have a little paranormal little creature running in around my house. I have not, if this creature has been attached to this house the whole time, I was totally unaware of it. If it attached recently, I am not sure how I attracted it unless it was the fairy offerings that I give at midsummer. I do give fairy offerings from time to time on certain sabbats and stuff, but generally I have not been real active with fairy magic or the fae of any kind. I don't normally deal with all of that, but I just thought I would share my Saturday night excitement. Again, it wasn't the night, it wasn't Llamas, but it was the Saturday before when all this activity took place. I now am leaving a small food offering to this little creature. I am attempting now to make friends, basically. And as long as this little thing doesn't cause me any trouble, I've decided to let it stay. However, if it starts to cause mischief, I will have to ban it from the premises. So we'll see. And this is just installment 1 on my adventures with my newfound brownie friend that has decided to take up residence with me in this house. This is all I really wanted to say this week. I just wanted to throw something out there. So this is for you, October, with you talking about that people like to hear things more on the paranormal. And if y'all have any suggestions on how I can make better contact with this little brownie or magical creature of whatever it is, because until I actually make real contact with it, I guess I'm not going to know for sure exactly what I'm dealing with, but in the back of my mind I'm pretty convinced it's a brownie. So if y'all have any comments, any experiences with brownies, or any other kind of magical little creature that can be running loose in your home, please feel free to comment on the bottom, because I'm just beginning my research into all of this. And although Jan was very helpful with some, she says that she has a resident brownie in her house. They are very prevalent in Scotland, where she's from. So we'll see how and what my brownie here in South Texas responds to. But y'all have a blessed day, and like I said, if y'all have any advice or stories, please comment down below. I would love to hear any input on this matter, since I really have never delved into anything more than the very superficial topic of the fae and all of the magical creatures that fall under that fairy realm. So y'all have a blessed day, and goodbye.